All right, welcome to the conversation today, guys. This is our first call ever, and I want to thank you all for being here. This is exciting that we're going down this path and making sure that we get you guys the technology and the learning that you guys need in order to be successful. Today's topic that we're going to be going over is DISC. That's D-I-S-C. It's a personality / behavioral traits study. Sorry, get my microphone there. And one of the things that some of you already know about this, some of you that are on this call, you're already very familiar with DISC, and some of you that are listening to this and going through this for the first time, you've never heard it before. So we're taking you all the way back to the foundation. And even if you know this, you've been there, done that before, I want you to listen with an open mind today, because you have no idea what you're going to pick up today that you didn't pick up before. Maybe there was something that you overheard, or you just didn't hear it the first time. Every time we're in a classroom, we're picking up only 10 to 20% of what's actually going on, and we're hearing what we're prepared to hear. We're not hearing every single thing. So today, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take you guys all the way back to the DISC worksheet. I'm going to walk you guys through this, and I'm going to share my screen here. So people often ask, what is DISC? What does it stand for? What does it even mean? I'm going to make this a little, can you guys still read that? Can somebody nod their heads? Okay, awesome. So what this chart does right here is it explains what D, I, S, and C mean. What is the DISC profile? Essentially, all of us have these natural tendencies that come out of us that will lend itself to one or two of these categories more than the other two. The only thing that you have to really understand is at times we can all show up in all four categories. Just because we're a high SC or just because we're a high I doesn't mean that we're never one of the other characteristics. We often have a little bit of some of all of these. It's just that we lead with one or two of these behaviors. So can you guys see me pointing when I'm pointing at stuff? Okay, just making sure what I'm actually sharing is what I think I'm sharing. All right, let's start with DISC, the D in DISC. Now, a high D stands for dominance. These are your people who are very, very direct. They're dominant. They're decisive. They tend to ask questions that say the word what. What's happening? What's going on? What do you mean by that? Things like that. They're going to say the word what a lot. Now, their key emotion is that they're quick to anger. Now, they are not angry people. That's just their key emotion, because whenever something comes up, they tend to get pretty frustrated. And I'll walk you through why in just a second. They are motivated by the challenge and by the bottom line. So, we're laughing the other day. I was hanging out with Jill. Many of you know Jill. And I started a little competition with myself. She laughed at me and she said, Brittany, there was no competition. Nobody was competing. I said, but I was, and I won. So I'm really excited about it, right? I love the challenge. And this kind of person is motivated by that. When you put a challenge in front of them or you talk about the bottom line, they're going to attack it head on. Now, their motto is just do it. Just get it done. Okay, just get it done. Now, here's where the emotions come in. Their biggest fears are being taken advantage of and having their time wasted. This is huge for a high D. In any type of transaction that you guys are working with people or having any type of conversation with a high D, if you hit one of those two triggers, it's likely going to come out as anger. They're going to get angry because that's their key emotion. And the reason that they're doing it is because they feel like they're being taken advantage of, or that they're wasting their time. And those are the two most important things to them. Now, let's talk about a high I. High I is your influencer. They love to persuade. They are influencing, they're interactive, they're impulsive. They're the kind of person you want to go on a road trip with, because when you go on a road trip with them, they're going to have fun. They're going to be singing in the car and dancing. It's going to be high energy. And they're going to be like, hey, you want to go stop at that store over there? That looks really exciting. And you just say yes, because you're like, you're so feeding off of their energy. They've got great energy. And they are the person who asks who. Who are you related to? Who do you know? Who's going to be at the party? These kind of questions are going to be the big questions that come out of them. That's how you're going to know you're working with a high I. Their key emotion is optimism. They're the person when the high D is really pissed off because of other things, they're going to go, it's going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine. Here's all the things that we can look at that are really positive. And they're going to get that high D, or anybody that's in a negative state of mind, they're going to pull them out of it because their key emotion is optimism. They're motivated by flattery and recognition, and their motto is, you can do it. They're going to be the person that's the cheerleader for everyone. Sometimes they need a little bit of cheerleading themselves, but they will be the person in the room that's cheerleading everyone else on. Their dominant fear is rejection. So a lot of their decisions are going to be made based on not wanting to be rejected or isolated from their friends or their peers. Okay. Now, going in order of DISC, we're going down to the bottom right-hand side, and your high S stands for steadiness, to be supportive. They ask a lot of questions about why. Why are we doing it this way so that I can better understand? Once they better understand, they're usually willing to engage and go all in on something, but they want to break it down first. They are steady, they are stable, and they are secure. Funny thing is, their key emotion is hiding their emotions. So I always tell people, if you're not sure who you're in the room with, you're probably in the room with a high S. They're motivated by the benefits. They want to know what the benefits are. It goes back to that why question. Okay, they're motivated by what is the background behind this? What happens if I take this apart? What happens here, right? Or why? I keep asking what because I'm a high D. They're asking why it works, why it works together. Their motto is better safe than sorry, and their dominant fears are loss of security and change. So they may be a little bit more resistant. Like if you're working with a buyer or seller that is afraid of moving and they're really worried about the process, that's probably your high S coming out. They're worried about what happens if we move, what happens if things don't go right, that kind of thing. Now, a high C is your compliant person. They can also be avoiding conflict. So they are compliant, they are correct, and they are controlled, and they tend to ask the question, how? How does this work? Their key emotions are fear and risk aversion, and they are motivated by being correct. Their motto is, and this needs to be extended a little bit, their motto for an extreme high C is not just do it right, it's do it right no matter what the cost. And their dominant fear is criticism. They want it to be perfect. Now, I want you to look on the outside of this chart and you see some things. At the top and bottom, you see fast and aggressive, and then at the bottom, you see steady and cautious. Now, fast and aggressive applies to your D's and I's. Those are fast-moving individuals, and they tend to be in your face. And aggressive does not mean like aggressive like a dog. It means that they are more upfront. Their presence is going to be felt in a room is one of the things that I would use to describe that. Like they walk into a room and they kind of, their presence is known. They're there. They're going to take charge. They're more aggressive type of personalities. Your high S's and C's are a lot more steady and cautious. And so they're going to go at a more methodical, reserved pace. That doesn't mean that they can't move fast. It just means that the way that their minds are working, they're going to be a little bit more cautious around things. Your S's and C's, when they know all of the details, they tend to move really fast once they know all the details. Once they know the system, once they've got the kinks worked out, they can move lightning fast. And when you walk into a room, they're going to be your more quiet and reserved types. They're going to be taking it all in, okay? Now, over here on the left-hand side, your D's and C's are going to be very task-oriented. They like to get stuff done. Now, it's just the speed at which they go. And on the right-hand side, you have people-oriented. Something popped up on my screen, and I have no idea what it was, and it moved away. So if you have a question, will you unmute yourself real quick? Okay, I'll look at it in a little bit. People-oriented is on the right, so I and S are going to be your more people-oriented. It's just going to be the pace at which they're going. Your high I's are going to be much faster paced, and your high S's are going to be slower, a little bit slower and quieter. Does everybody understand that so far? That's the basics. All right, I'm going to stop this sharing. Now I see it, Holly. All right. So I'm actually going to take you through a couple of exercises. I do want to share my screen on this one. I got to figure out how to hang on just a second. Learning this and learning to be prepared is going to be an interesting journey. I'm actually going to read from it for just a few minutes. I want you guys to think about, based on what I just described, I want you to think about, what is your personality style? You don't have to say anything. You don't have to come off mute. I want you to think about which one is you, or which two are most like you. Everybody got that? Some of us know ourselves really well after being on this team for a while and talking about this stuff for a while. Now, I want you to think, who are the people that you get along with the most? Think about the people that you just have a natural bond with, your clients, the people you meet at a store, like anything. You notice any similarities between you and the people that you tend to bond with the easiest? Feel free to come off mute if you'd like to share. Have you guys ever noticed that you tend to bond with the people that are more similar to you? The only caveat that I'd say to that is that that bond comes a little bit more naturally. And then there's also this magic that happens when you have almost opposite personalities as well. When you have, a high D working with a high S, sometimes there can be some magic in that relationship. It's not always, and there can be when two people's skill sets and their attributes can yin and yang together and work together. So I actually, because I'm such a strong personality and a high D, a lot of times high S's really loved working with me because they felt safe and secure, because I was such a take charge personality. And I could temper myself in a listing appointment to make sure that they felt safe and secure. And at the same time, they knew that I was going to go out and be the bulldog that they didn't want to be. And so there was some magic in those relationships as well. It's about really understanding who you are and who the client is, so that you can present in such a way that you're not overpowering them or underpowering them or whatever. You're actually communicating in a way that they want to be communicated with. And I've been really thinking about this because I'm working on some other classes talking about personality styles and the way that we communicate as well. And one of the things that is important to understand is, if you guys went to live in another country, right? Do you think, and say they do not speak English as their main language, right? Would you maybe learn a little bit of the language, or try to, before you went? Yeah, I would too, because I'd want to know how to get my food. I'd want to know how to get from place to place safely, right? And I'm not going to expect every person that I come across to speak my language. I'm going to go and speak their language. That's the way I want you to think about this going into a buyer consult or a seller consult, or really into any of your relationships on the team with co-oping agents, etc. I want you to think it's your responsibility to learn the language of the person that you're interacting with, so that you guys can have an open line of communication. So I do want some of you to come off of mute. I know that some of you are not in the place to do that. I completely understand. I would like for one or two of you to come off of mute, and I want you to tell me, how do you notice a high D in a listing or buyer presentation?
For me, a high D is just, they don't care about anything. They just want to get it done. They want to get the paperwork signed. They want to get you out of their house. They want to know when the sign's going to go in the yard, when the photography's going to be. Great. Thank you. Have a great day. Mm-hmm. Appreciate your help. That is, for me, the biggest sign of a high D personality.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Lizzie, can you come off mute and tell us how you spot a high I?
If I can learn how to come off mute.
You did.
Your high I's are going to be like Holly, that you guys will all get to know as you're learning and training with us. They're going to be the people that come into the room and they are known. You know that they're there. They make an entrance. They get to know people really well. They're the ones that are initiating those conversations. In a transaction, they're going to be the ones that want to know who lives next door and does this celebrity live in the neighborhood or stuff like that. They're going to want to know about the who's.
Gotcha. Can somebody come off of mute and tell me how you recognize a high S? And I don't know if Julia can come off of mute. If she can't, then I'm going to rely on Holly and Lizzie, because it looks like a bunch of people are using their cell phones, which is totally fine. But that means that I don't know what their functionality is right now. High S. Holly, how do you know a high S?
Yeah, so a high S is going to be very concerned. They want to know details of every part of this transaction. They're scared to death. They're worried. They just need security, as much security as you can possibly give them.
Lizzie, how do we know a high C?
Your high C's are going to be the people that are want to know every single fact about absolutely everything. They're going to pick apart your seller's disclosure. They're going to read the contract word for word. They're going to ask you questions about it. So you're going to really need to know your stuff when you're working with your C clients.
Awesome. Awesome job. Those are excellent points on how you know who you have in front of you. So what I'm going to do here is there was a page in one of our booklets that everybody should, I hate shoulding on people, but everybody should have access to our Creating Buyer Urgency program. And there are some videos and some sheets that go along with that. So I am pulling from that sheet. It's part of your training as well. And, we already kind of went over this piece. This was not the page I was looking for. Sorry. This is what I wanted to go over. We're going to start with a high D. Now, if you are not a high D, you need to be paying attention, okay? Every one of these disc profiles that is not you, you need to be paying attention to, because it's really easy to bond and to close the people that you already are just like them. It's easy to build rapport with them. It's easy to understand what they want because they want the same things you want. I'm asking you to learn another language with the things that the personality profiles that are not you. It's easier said than done, and I'm still working on mastering it. I've been working on this for years. So with a high D, okay, words and phrases to use are functional, good value, and time is important. Probably the most important thing that you could say to a high D is, I value your time, and so I want to do some things before I come to the appointment so I'm fully prepared to save you time and money. That's like magic words right there. That is like the magic script that says, oh my gosh, this person actually values my time. And then do it. Actually live up to your word. Come prepared, go in with a plan, come out with a result, and don't waste their time. You can be in and out with a high D. If they've decided to hire you already, you could come out with a listing agreement and in a listing appointment within 15 minutes. If they have not decided to hire you yet, with a great presentation, you can be out in 30 minutes. A high I, you will never get out in that much time. A high C, you will never get out in that much time. You just got to know who you're going in with, okay? So things that you should do: emphasize the team concept on why that's a value to them, why it nets them more money, why it saves them time, just why is that important? Our showing time, for those of you that are going on listing appointments, showing time is probably the best thing that you could ever sell them on, and make sure that they understand the value of it, because as a high D, nobody ever wants to hear the traditional way to schedule a showing is the agent calls me, they call a bunch of other agents, I call you if I'm out of an appointment. If I was at the doctor, or if I, in another listing appointment, it might take me a couple hours to get back to you, and then I'm going to request it from you, and then you have to request it back from me, and then you say whether that works or that doesn't work. Oh my God, the high D is exhausted in this conversation already, okay? They want to hear, we have this really awesome service called Showing Time that puts you in charge of the showings. It's going to send you a text message or a phone call or an email or all three, and then you get to make the decision on whether you accept, decline, or you want to counter them. Super easy. You're in control. You don't have to wait for me. It saves us both time, energy, and it puts the buyer in your house, which will bring you an offer quickly. That's the way you present that to a high D, right? Here's the value, here's the reason, save time, bullet points. And so if you understand the team concept, everything that you're telling them needs to be returned back to why this is of value to you, why it saves you time or money or energy or whatever, gets them to the bottom line. What you also, things that you should know, let them know your qualifications. They will love to know your qualifications and your team's qualifications. You will let a buyer, this works with buyers or sellers. I happen to be reading a buyer packet, so it talks a lot about buyers, but letting them know that their time is valuable, also letting them know that you're going to be a bulldog for their money and watch out for their money the way that you would watch out for your own. That's going to make them feel more at ease in the relationship. And you're going to want to move quickly, emphasize results. That's all they're going to care about is results, and give them options from which to make decisions. High Ds get decision indecision. I don't know if you guys have ever noticed that some of you working with me for a long time, the more options you give me, the more all of a sudden I get a little overwhelmed in the decision-making process. If you just come to me and say, here's the problem. I've already come up with 2 solutions or 3 solutions. Which do you prefer? I might counter your solutions, or I might just pick one. It is the fastest way to create certainty in that conversation with a high D. And making sure that the homes are functional and the floor plans are efficient. Things you should never do with a high D: appear indecisive, be problem oriented. That was what I just talked about. Instead of coming to them with a problem, you come to them with solutions. If you come problem oriented, they're going to start feeling like they have to take over. If they're taking over, then they don't see the value in you actually representing them. There's like a whole stream of thoughts that comes out of a high D. If they're the one solving the problem, then their time is being wasted, their money is being wasted. You're hitting a lot of triggers for them. So the best way you can avoid hitting that trigger is to be solutions oriented, and you come to them with options. You've already looked at everything and you're coming with solutions. Do not act overly friendly. You guys know when I get a text message from you guys and you're like, how are you doing? I go, what's wrong? What's going on? That's not my problem. That's not your problem. It's just how we are. So if you walk into a high D, you're not going to want to ask them a ton of questions about them. You're going to want to feed off of their energy. And if they're staying fact-based, you can ask them a few rapport building questions. How long have you lived here? What have you liked about it? This, that, and the other. What do you do for work? Don't spend too much time there. They will answer those questions. But if you're a high I or high S, you will feel how uncomfortable they are. If you're paying attention, you'll feel how uncomfortable they are in those questions. Don't keep going. More questions is not going to make it better. Get back to the facts and keep going through the presentation. And making non-supportive statements or making decisions for the buyer or wasting the buyer's time, and replace buyer with client or any person that you're talking to. You don't want to make the decisions for them. You want to give them the options so that they can make the decisions, and you never ever want to waste their time. So be prepared. Be prepared in your interactions with people. Have your supporting information so that a decision can be made quickly. Let's talk about a high I. And Holly, I love it. If you would pitch in on this. Can you read it okay?
Yeah, I can see it good.
Read it for us and do a little bit of what I just did as well, and telling what your knowledge of the should do's and should not do's in here.
Absolutely. So words and phrases to use. The room is great for entertaining. Anybody that knows a high I, we love a good party. We love people. We love to not be alone. So we always need people around us. Even when we are exhausted, we still want people around us. The club is close by, which is where we thrive, because if the club is close by, then people are close by. We can dance, we can talk, we can have fun, we can eat, we can do all this things we love. Fun neighbors, that means we're going to have people who are going to interact with us again. So those people next door, they're going to be fun, they're going to be talkative, they're going to invite us over for parties, that makes us feel loved as a high I. Things that we should do, emphasize testimonies. So yeah, mention who you know, name drop all day long. If I know so-and-so who lives up the road, then we're automatically friends. Doesn't matter if I like you or not, because we have a mutual friend. I mean, it just is natural. You can ask Brittany. Brittany moved into our town, into my town, not too terribly long ago. And I'm like, you go up there next to that store where so-and-so lives, and then you take a right. And she's like, no, I don't know that. So I don't know who so-and-so is. That is who we are as a natural high I personality. We always think about who we know and that kind of that side of the things. Be fun and enthusiastic without dominating the conversation. Know when to talk, know when to not talk. And that is hard for us high I's. It's hard for us to read certain situations. When I get nervous, I get extra chatty. So high I turns into a really high I. Discuss friends, parties, and sports. Anything that I can find in common with you that I can talk about with you, I feel like we have something going on. Even when there's not something going on, I feel like we got something going on. Spend time developing the relationships. That is so important to us. As high I's, we always want to know how we can make this relationship better. What can I do better as a friend? What can I do better as a business partner? What can I do better as your agent? How can I make this better for us? And always staying one step ahead on that as well. Things you should not do. Let the buyer take you too far off track. So, us high I's have a tendency of letting things happen because we don't want to diffuse a situation, or we don't want to be rude, or we don't want to mess this up because we're afraid of rejection, right? We might think that if we say something that they don't like, they're not gonna like us anymore, right? So we have to know that fine line of when to be professional and make sure that professionalism line is taken into account versus letting things happen that can drag us off. Do all the talking. Do not do all the talking. You have to listen. Something that you have to practice. High I's have to practice this. Use your 2 ears versus your 1 mouth. My mom always told me. That's why God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. Ignore social boundaries. Don't do that. I love hugs more than anybody. But if somebody does not like hugs, don't give them hugs. As much as you want to just squeeze them, don't do it. But that's a high I in a nutshell.
I would add that in working with high I's and maintaining the relationship, this whole don't let the buyer take you too far off track. One of the things that I like to do for those of you who don't know how to reel a high I in when they're going and going and going, because once they get talking, they're afraid to leave an open space. The more nervous they get and the more unsure they get, the more they're going to talk. And so what I love to do with high I's is acknowledge what they just said and then interrupt with a question that pulls them back in the direction that I need them to go in. And so if perchance Holly was rambling and she was my buyer and she was going on and on about something that was completely unrelated, and we're 30 minutes into a phone call and I'm trying to get her off the phone, I might politely say, man, I can't believe that happened. Just curious, and completely derail the conversation with a direction that I want to go. I might use a transition phrase like just curious, or hey, can I ask you a question? Sometimes you just need to interrupt them, but really politely acknowledge what they've said, be at the same energy level as they are, and then pull them back in with a question, and it'll recenter them. Sometimes they'll go, oh, I forgot that you asked a question, and that was what I was responding to. They'll forget, and that's how you politely bring them back in, is you stay with their energy, you affirm them, whatever they're talking about, and then ask a question. And so that can help you guys in keeping them from going too far off track. And I will add, just like you said, Holly, they do love to talk. High I's love to talk, and they love to talk about their families and the people that they love and themselves. We all do a little bit, but high I's really love to. And so one of the things that you can do is ask a lot of questions and let them talk. The more they're talking, the more bonded they're going to feel to you. So that's a great way to bond with them. All right. Lizzie, would you like to read through for high S's?
I sure can. So your S personalities, the biggest thing that they really want to know is that they're going to be safe. So the safe neighborhood's a big deal for them. And so actually on the purchase and sale contract there is a link that you can give your client so that they can go and do their own research. because a lot of times we're not allowed to say specific things. So encourage them to do their own research about the neighborhood. It may steer them away from it, but at the end of the day, they do want to feel safe. Good schools is a big thing, making sure that their kids can go to good schools and point them in the right direction of the ratings of the schools, and just get them with the right people on that. They're good people and they want a friendly neighborhood. So they do want to have friends there. They're not quite as much like the I's who want people over 24/7, but they do want to have friendly neighbors. So those are the words, phrases you can use when you are trying to go out with your S clients, making sure that those are the big points you hit on. Things you should do, they are still really impacted by strong relationships. So continue to develop that. Make sure that they know you care. You may have to tone it down a little bit from the I. Give them plenty of time to make a decision. So these are going to be your clients that sometimes when you're in a multiple offer situation, they're going to feel really stressed and pushed to submit an offer. So making sure that you help walk them through that a little bit, and giving them as much time as you can. If you're in a seller's market, sometimes you have to move quickly, but also preparing them up front for that we may have to move quickly so that they know that could be a scenario. Communicating that you care about the clients and their families. So just showing an extra level of care, still some I, but more so, more the care aspect of it, I think. You still want to give them statistics and facts, kind of tying into the C a little bit. They are going to want to know things to feel safe about the whole situation, the house and everything. So give them those statistics, point them in the right direction for those facts and stuff, and give them really good, steady communication. So making sure you're checking in with them, making sure they're okay. If there's nothing to report to them, continue to touch base with them and let them know, hey, there's nothing new, just wanted to let you know that. Things you should not do, being too direct or abrupt. So if you are an I, toning that down a little bit, making sure you're not interrupting the conversation as they're trying to speak, and speak their mind. Push too hard. Sometimes when we are in those multiple offer situations, it's our tendency to push really hard and give them that urgency, but sometimes you can push a little too hard and then they're just not going to do it. So finding that fine line between pushing and not too aggressively. Moving too fast, again, same thing, where we have to be careful and not make them feel rushed about making a decision. And then using high pressure tactics. So sometimes those D tendencies that we like to just get it done and push really hard, reining that in a little bit. So that's pretty nutshell.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Your high S's want to know you care. They want to know that they're making a smart decision. Their biggest fear is this change. So they're going to need the details and they're going to need the reassurances as well. And their brain is programmed to say, if things are being pushed too hard, too fast, then it's probably not a good decision. And so some of the other things that you can do, I'll actually let one of you two answer. What do you do in your buyer presentation to prep a high S for high stakes conversations like multiple offers and things, or a fast moving house, like a deal just popped up? What are you doing in your buyer presentation to prep them?
Me personally, I'm being as proactive as I can. I let them know what kind of market that we are in. I let them know that list price to sales price number, the ratios there. And I explain to them, because of this is why we are going to have to be prepared. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a blank copy of our purchase and sale agreement that's voided so that you can take it home and you can read through it. If you have any questions about this document, please, please, please let me know before we get into that situation, so we don't have to take the time to answer those questions then. We can answer them now, and that'll put us one step ahead. So that's really what I do to bulletproof that. I make sure that they are just, the expectations are set as clearly as I possibly can set them.
Excellent. All right. Which one of you would like to do the high C personality? You want me to do it?
Doesn't matter. You tell me if you want me to do it. I don't mind doing it.
I'll jump on that.
What now? What, Lizzie?
I said we're not all jumping on that one.
All right, I'll jump on it. Since I'm a DIC, you guys can spell that out later and have yourself a little giggle. And a high C personality, I actually have, my C comes out a lot. Especially when you get to know me really, really well, you'll see it come up in a couple of different areas. I'm getting some feedback, so if you guys could make sure that you're muted now. I figured out who it was. Got it. Never mind. All right. So with a high C personality, phrases to use with them are exact ratios and numbers. If you already know you're walking into an appointment with somebody who is a high C personality, you better know your numbers before you walk in the room, because they're going to ask. And if they're anything like me, then they've already researched you. They have already studied they've gotten referrals, but they've also studied what's your track record, what does it appear to be. They've interviewed people that have referred you to them. They want to know why you, and it kind of comes across like bottom line, but it's not bottom line. It really is like, I want to make sure that this is perfect. Your high C tends to want to interview the best of the best because they don't want to screw up. They're afraid of getting this wrong. So they're going to interview multiple agents generally. Sometimes you can win them over without doing multiple agent interviews. And at the same time, it's something you need to be aware of. They are watching every move that you make, and they're wanting to know that you know the numbers. Guys, it doesn't take that much for you to know the numbers. Georgia MLS, Athens MLS, all of the MLSs we use have some very simple ratios that you can pull and some reports. You don't have to go do the math. Like, you can just pull the report before the appointment, make sure that you have accurate numbers, and then you go into the meeting and you have those. So if they ask you a question, you go, you know what, I actually prepped some stuff for that. Let me pull that out for a minute. They're going to respect a correct answer over just any answer. They would rather you pull out the research that you pulled and show it to them rather than just answer off the cuff. Okay, they're going to respect the fact that you did the research. You do want to use comparative data. Your high C's, are definitely going to be the people who you want to know what your team's list price to sales price ratio is on the list side versus the buy side, and how that compares to the market. What you do differently to get that better price, which you think all that is. They're going to be asking big questions, but it's going to be more statistical questions, and they're going to be willing to spend longer listening to the data versus a high D might just take some of it for surface value. If they feel confident in you and they feel confident in your results, they're going to move forward. A high C is going to want to hear proof. They're going to interview you a little bit more. You're going to have to appeal to their logic. You will never get them to make an emotional decision. The minute you trip over into emotional decision-making questions, forget it. They're no longer going to even trust you. Okay. They're just not going to trust you anymore. They are going to say, well, how does this make sense if logically this? So prepare your objection handlers based on your pre-qualifying questions. Prepare yourself and understand that when you come in and handle any objection that they have, it has to appeal to their logic and how you're going to net them more money and you're going to protect them, and you have nothing to fear because you've hired the best person, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Be prepared with facts and details. Come in. Do not walk into a high C appointment without your papers together. Do not walk in shuffling papers and trying to arrange them all. You need to be prepared with a high C, period. Just have all of your ducks in a row, have the paperwork figured out, filled in where you just need signatures. And I would also say appear put together as well for a high C. This is not the person on a first impression that you want to walk in with like yoga pants on, your workout clothes, and go, I just came from such and such appointment. They don't give a crap. You are prepared, period. You're perfect no matter what. And so let me see that. So even if you had to make an adjustment for the schedule and you did have to go do something in yoga pants, you better find a place to change on the way to gas station so that you got your jacket on and your professional outfit, right? You want to appear put together. Follow through and deliver on what you promise. If you're going to make a promise, deliver on it. If you're not going to deliver on it, don't say it. I would just absolutely say that without a shadow of a doubt with a high C. They may never tell you that you failed them. They may just cast that judgment and they're already putting like a token in the negative tank. So be very, very careful around over-promising. You want to under-promise and over-deliver. You also want to give them plenty of time to think. This is also the person that you want to give them the documents ahead of time and give them a chance to review it and ask you if they have any questions. And you absolutely, this goes for everybody. Be on time for your appointments and calls. It goes back to following through and delivering on what you promised. You said you're going to be there at 4 o'clock, be there at 3:45. greet them at the door and say, listen, I'm 15 minutes early. Would you like for me to go ahead and come in now? Or would you like me to go back to my car because I can check a few emails while I'm there? You're saying it, you're having them acknowledge the fact that you're early, but if they still need time to get ready, that's perfectly fine. And with calls as well, if you say a certain time, be there at a certain time. And this is the kind of person that they can be forgiving. If something happens, you just want to over communicate it, and you want to communicate it in plenty of time. Don't tell them 1 minute before time that you're going to be 15 minutes late. Tell them when you found out that you're going to be 15 minutes late, and ask their permission if that's okay. Things you should not do. I would just add to this list, in addition to don't be vague, things you should not do with a high C is just answer off the cuff. This person would much rather you say, you know what? I don't want to give you the wrong answer, so I'm going to go do some research. What other questions do you have that I can add to the list? I want to make sure that I give you the accurate answers over just any answer of what I think or what I'm assuming. They're going to really actually appreciate that. And then they'll list out their other 47 questions for you that they have. And you can go and research them and go back to them later, okay? Also, do not appeal to their emotion. That is not how they're making decisions. They are, but they aren't, okay? They are averse to fear. So you can use emotion a little bit, but it's going to have to be fear-based and certainty-based. And the way that you're going to get their emotions engaged is by giving them data and facts. So you're actually not going to play on the what will happen if your house doesn't sell. I mean, you're going to ask that regardless, but you're going to want to go back to logic. How much is this going to cost you if your house doesn't sell? Say if we're talking to a seller or something like that. If we don't take this offer that we have on the table, what happens if the next offer is less? Not how would you feel? What happens if the next offer is less? How many months of mortgage payment and how many months of interest payment, how many months of taxes are you going to pay between now and then? Because what if the next offer is less, but also what if it takes us 6 months of all those payments and anything else that goes wrong with the house? It's actually going to cost you more than just what the offer is. It's going to cost you all that time as well. That's how you negotiate with a high C, is you end up going into the facts and the figures to help move them along. You should not pat them on the back. You should not be doing encouraging and things like that. They're looking for the details, period. You guys know people like that on our team, like checking in with them makes them go, what's wrong? What's going on? And don't come in telling jokes or trying to be too familiar. This is the person you will absolutely lose the buyer or the listing appointment if you, especially if you're a high I and you start to get uncomfortable around their personality and you start to like overly be high I, like you're trying a little bit harder and a little bit harder and a little bit harder. Every time you do that, you're pushing them away. And so the best thing that you can do is stick to the facts and figures and pay attention to what they're communicating back to you. So I want to end here. I'm going to put myself back on video here for just a few minutes. And I would love for you guys to share with me something that you've learned today, or if you have any questions about what we've gone over. I know there's so much more in addition to this, just this. We wanted to give you guys the foundation of where to start, though.
I kind of want to piggyback before we start doing that. And I want to say that, learning who you're dealing with whenever you're working with them as a customer and a client is very important, because you're not going to ask them to meet you halfway. You don't work with these people. You don't know these people. So sometimes it's difficult. Like for Brittany and myself, Brittany is a high D, I'm a high I. We do have some similarities, but we mesh well together because we both work together and we meet in the middle. Mm-hmm. Now, if it were my client, I wouldn't ask that of them, right? I wouldn't ask my high D client. I wouldn't go in and say, hey, listen, I'm a high I. I'm going to need you to be a little bit more I, and I'm going to be a little bit more D. So it's really, it's important to make sure you understand the difference between the work life and the DISC assessment and your client life and the DISC assessment. Because you do have to give and take. You do have to say, okay, listen, Holly's a high I. I'm going to have to give her a little bit more so that, we have a good relationship. And I'm going to say, okay, Britt's a D. I'm not going to walk in the door and, hug her to death every time I see her, or I'm not going to text her, a whole paragraph. I know that she's going to want like a direct text. So I think that's very important for us to understand too, is you have to know when you're going to meet in the middle, and you're going to know when you're going to have to give it the full thing.
Yeah. In our client relationships, it's on us. The responsibility is on us. We're not there to teach them how to deal with us, which, by the way, if you're a high D, I know you wish the whole world would just revolve around you, because Lord knows I wish they did. And, but that's not the case. Oh, well, I wish I could stop it and say to everyone I know, listen, if you could just do this so you can get better, at communicating with me. That's not the point. It's so that we can get better at communicating with others. And if we ever find that there's a disconnect, that's the place to check for it. Is, okay, am I even speaking their language?
I agree. Yeah. And working on a team with other people, it's important to communicate. If somebody is being too extra, if I'm ever being too extra high for you, God, please tell me. Like, just say, tone it down. Come on, reel it in a little bit. I'm a S, and I don't like your I right now. Like, just
they'll never say it, Holly. They'll never say it. That's what you got to understand.
I know S's won't, but it's so important to communicate through these things. It just builds such better relationships.
Yeah, I would say on the team, some of my favorite exercises are when we pair up people who are opposite and allow them to verify each other's DISC or KPA. It takes forever in a day to do it. You almost have to time block like half a day to do it, because they're just having so many realizations, and they go like completely off course because they're asking a million questions, but they're getting to know the other person. And those are some of my favorite exercises, learning to validate a DISC assessment or a KPA or any kind of personality assessment with somebody who is like very opposite of you. So, tell me more. Tell me how you think. Oh my gosh, I never knew that, and it gets interesting.
Like, it's interesting to me to know what makes you tick. Who are you? Why do you do it that way? Because I don't do it that way, naturally.
Mm-hmm. Lizzie, did you have something you wanted to share? Any ahas, anything you picked up today, or any anecdotes that you think new agents should know, or anybody on the team should know?
The biggest thing I would say is just the quicker that you can learn the DISC profile, the more successful your business is going to be, because you're going to learn quicker how to handle those clients, and you're not going to lose clients because of it. Because sometimes whatever the opposite of your personality is, you may really struggle to kind of tailor yourself to them. So the faster that you can learn that, and it would also be a good idea to role play out with the DISC profile. So making sure that when you're role playing, that the other person is acting as a different personality from yours, probably most of the time. So making sure that, because you know how to interact with the same as yours typically, or some that complement yours, but the ones that are really tough for you, role play those out well.
Yeah, it'd be good for you to identify who you are and then who your other team members are, and then ask, like, would somebody role play with me and give me honest feedback? We've got very, very different profiles on the team, and I think that's a beautiful and wonderful thing, because then if you'll role play, do your presentation, and then say, okay, from your personality style, what did I totally screw up? Where did I get this wrong? Where am I not getting this right? And they'll tell you. Hopefully, I think we have a really awesome team that'll give you that feedback. And it's going to be your responsibility, though, to go and role play it with them. So, all right. Anybody need to add anything else to our call today? This was a really great call. It was straight to the point. It did take us a little while longer than I expected, and I thought we went over some really valuable information. All right, guys, have a phenomenal day. I can't wait to keep doing these. I know that some of these are going to feel foundational to the people who have been here before, and then the new people, you may be learning this for the first time, or maybe you've learned it before, and we will continue to do this so that we can layer on and create a wonderful library of resources for each one of you. I hope you have a very powerful day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys.